Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quinten Krzysko, Sunny Verma, and the one and only Luce, bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
Monday Night Football. The goal is coming this night, right? Exciting. Big moment. Week 1. The goal is for Ben Johnson to usher in a new era of Chicago Bears football. But that looked like the same old Bears to me. We are Bears on Tap. My name is Quinten Krzysko. I am joined by Luce and Sunny Verma. Gentlemen, starting with Sunny, how are you guys doing this evening?
How am I doing this evening? I just got to relive the Bears experience for the 20th year season that I'm going to recall in my life. It's the same old, but you know what? I get to spend the last part of my evening talking to you guys. So hopefully you guys can cheer me up.
I'll lead it off echoing Sonny's last point. It is always a pleasure to see you two gentlemen, and that makes this just a little bit better. Wow, holy shit. You know what, Q? Here's how I'm going to answer your question on how I'm doing.
For the listeners, Ron is currently chugging a beer.
I'm not great, man. I'm not great.
It's rough.
I have thoughts. I will save them for the rest of the show, man. But it's good to see you two. It is always good to see you two. If nothing else, this dumpster fire brought the three of us together here on Monday night.
At the very least, it's football and it's back, and we can rejoice about that. But I'm going to ask you guys for some initial thoughts. But before I get there, I wrote down some thoughts as I was going through the doldrums of the final 2 minutes, and I'd like to start off with those. So anyone who needs a recap, Bears blew a 17-6 lead against the VIkings. J.J. McCarthy wins his first NFL game in Chicago as a Bears fan against his team after looking like crap for 3 quarters. And the Bears fall to 3-14 against the NFC North since 2022, which is a wild stat. But the Bears defense dominated for the first 3 quarters of the game. Then they allowed 21 fourth quarter points, which is outrageous. But meanwhile, you can put this on the defense if you want. I have a hard time doing that because the offense spent the whole game mired in mistakes, misses, penalties, and question marks. And, I'm Ben Johnson is here. This is the first game. They're still only working with a partial playbook. You could tell. I thought that their game script plays were much cleaner than the rest of their plays, right? They had their plays that they felt good about. When they ran out of those, it was kind of like, okay, now we're getting into unknown territory. So I've got to give Ben Johnson a few weeks before I get too worked up about any of this with the offense, because it felt like they had their hands tied behind their back at times with what they could do. A hobbled left tackle, like I said, new playbook. It didn't seem like they were confident opening it up until they absolutely had to. But this is just not how you want to start. And frankly, Caleb missed more than a few throws. He should have hit a handful of those throws. They were there to be had. And that's forgivable as a rookie. But in your second year, you either need to hit those throws or make up for your misses. And he did neither tonight. But gentlemen, what are your initial thoughts coming into this show, starting with Ron?
Man, I'll tell you, I have two kind of opinions, I guess. One's analytical and one is meatball. And I'll save the meatball one for last. Analytically speaking, this was a fun game to watch. The defense was flying around. You can see the Dennis Allen difference in this defense, right? Yeah, maybe it's this largely the same group of guys from a year ago. It really, really sucked losing Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson for this game and not having them out there. But the defense was respectable for this entire game. They really had one really bad drive, and then the blocked punt really didn't do them any help. Outside of that, the offense like you said, I think the script was great. There's still plenty to get cleaned up, as to be expected with a whole new playbook, a lot of new faces on that offense, right? You got 3 new offensive linemen up front. There's still a lot of adjustment happening with this team. From the meatball perspective of me, it's the same shit, just a different cast of characters. And I'm starting to think it might just be the stain and stench of the blue and orange is really what it feels like right now. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. It doesn't matter who's on the sideline wearing the headset or holding the play sheet, because weird shit happens and doesn't go in the Bears' favor. The refs, a couple of really bad calls that halted some drives. And then, of course, Cairo Santos not being able to bang a field goal there hurts. They left a lot of points on the board. I think, I'm telling you, man, with every one of these, a small part of my Bears soul died. And another small part of me died tonight with this one, because you look back and you go, son of a bitch, you're there. You didn't get beat. You beat yourselves in a lot of ways. And that's what sucks most about this game.
This was such a gut punch of a game, just because it's supposed to be different. And then obviously all that energy and the vibes that we got over the Ben Johnson hiring, we made undoubtedly the best hiring when it comes to head coach coming to this offseason. He wanted Chicago. Chicago wanted him. We got all excited. Then you have that opening drive, which was as close to as perfect as you can write up an opening drive as you can have. And all of a sudden, Bears fans, again, we crown ourselves the offseason champions regardless, no matter what. We know even if the team is going to be bad, at least for that first game, there's hey, you never know. We think we're going to win the division. We think we're going to go back to the Super Bowl. And then, again, you have that exclamation mark with that first drive. And all of a sudden, silly me, I thought maybe things are different now. And I think that's why I feel so low after game 1 right now, is because you could have told me Ben Johnson was the head coach of this football team. You could have told me Eberflus was the head coach of this team. You could have told me any of the last 4 or 5 coaches we've had was in charge of that football team today. The defense, good. You know what? Bears defense is always usually pretty good. But on offense, just stupid penalties. A quarterback who cannot make wide open receivers, just overthrowing them. It's just one of those. That's how I opened up the show. It was the Bears experience. And maybe, Ron, you might be onto something. Maybe it's the orange and blue. Maybe this is why we need to move the team to Arlington Heights. Maybe it's a stadium. We need some huge shift, because this is just not working.
Now, I will push back a little bit on the I'm kind of giving the defense a pass, because they played great until the moment where they gave up the first, or I guess until the start of the fourth quarter, really. Gave up a 6-play 60-yard drive, then a 3-play 50-yard touchdown drive, and then the block punt happens. But the block punt was it was a block punt, but it still put them 60 plus yards away from the end zone. And the defense still let them go those. I think it's 68 yards for the touchdown after the block punt. Like, that is, I don't know. It's hard for me to forgive just because it was a block punt, like that. And like I said at the start of the show, I'm not putting this on the defense, but that is a pretty, I don't think Dennis Allen is sitting there saying that's acceptable from the fourth quarter for the defense. They're playing down a few guys. That's rough. And they pulled out a lot of tricks to make up for it, but it's still 21 points in one quarter. That is tough to swallow, I guess. And I'm going to put more weight on the offense on this one than the defense, but I don't think they're excused by any means.
I don't think so either. But also in that fourth quarter, you're right. 21 points to this Minnesota Vikings team, which, By the way, guys, I don't think they're very good either. And that's what just makes this loss more demoralizing. Like, it's one thing if I saw on the other side of the field a team that I thought could, win the division. Now, Minnesota, not a very good football team. You lost that game at home. And so giving up 21 points in a single quarter to a quarterback who I don't think is that good either it's not an ideal scenario. But also, how many 3-and-outs were there on the offensive side? You're talking about the fourth quarter. The defense seemingly never had a chance to rest up. It seemed like the offense would run 3 plays, and all of a sudden the pressure was on the defense to come back out there and make plays. And, a really good defense makes those plays and maybe, gives the offense a break. But I feel like the defense carried that offense for 3 quarters. And so at some point, the offense has got to do their business too.
Yeah, I mean that's that's kind of where I think we're in agreement here. Like it felt like the coaching staff needed to play this game plan delicately, and they really tried to, because they knew like we don't have a lot in our bag on offense. So like we gotta get the lead early and just kind of ride it out, and it fell apart in disastrous fashion at some point because they couldn't run the football. And they didn't have pass plays that they really felt like they trusted against the Brian Flores defense.
And I think then the question too becomes like, is that on anybody? Right? Like, is that on the quarterback to not be able to pick up the calls, or the offense as a whole because they can't get them, or the coaching staff because, to your point, Q, right, maybe doesn't feel comfortable against the Brian Flores defense? I think this game is just it's a lot of searching for answers of like, it's week 1. You would hope they would have a little bit deeper of a bag than they seemingly did in this one. Now, again, there was still a lot of good things that happened in this football game. I'm not sitting here going, wow, we're due for, we're doomed forever. But for the short term, it's almost a sense of disbelief. I feel like there's something to be said of us jumping on the microphone immediately following the game. But I feel like sometimes you need 24 hours just to calibrate everything that happened. And I think that's the state that I'm stuck in right now. Because it really does feel just like we sit back and we sit here and go, what the hell just happened? And where can we really pinpoint it falling apart? Because it felt like it was a collective team falling apart. Right, the defense fell apart in ways in the fourth quarter. The offense fell apart in ways, in that second and even into the third quarter. And do we say the coaching fell apart too? I think that's kind of where my questions lie right now. It's just like the coach in me is like, well, let's go to the tape and go watch it, because it's just sucks, man. This one sucks.
To your point, Ron, I mean, post-game is not, in my opinion, like, I can throw guesses and analysis out in post-game. I don't really know yet. Like, post-game to me is more about is the emotion of it. And it's like right now there's just like an empty pit in your stomach kind of feeling of, it was the roller coaster, right? You got up to the top and then you went down, but then it's like, oh, it's over now. And it ended down. And here we are, and I have no more money to go on another ride. That's kind of where it feels like you end up at it after a game like this. Of just like, it's almost funny. Last year was the exact opposite feeling, right? Like it was like you thought you were out of money, and then you found a $20 bill on the ground. You're like, I got 5 more rides in me. Let's go. Like, but I think you make a really good point. Whose fault is this? I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of blame to point outside of, like, probably Caleb, because he missed some throws. And I sit here and I go, the O-line, I wanted better run blocking. Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson, their calling card is run blocking. I needed better run blocking from those two tonight. And hopefully that's something that improves throughout the year as the chemistry builds there and we see more. We'll get into our O-line show tomorrow, Ron, where we'll break down some of what we saw happening there. But I mean, ultimately the blame just kind of comes on to me. New coach, new new schemes, everything is new. It's how you bounce back from it, right? It's how the coaches approach this week to make sure they can go beat Detroit next week, to not fall into the black hole that is an 0-2 start that history tells us an 0-2 start is really hard to climb out of and actually make the playoffs. Now, we need to see Caleb make some of those throws. We need to see, I thought DeAndre Swift did a nice job getting downhill tonight, even though the results really weren't there. There were a handful of times where it was like, okay, he's hesitating too much still. But like, I do think Eric Bieniemy is in his mind of like, you gotta get downhill. You gotta get downhill, because you saw him make a more concerted effort towards that tonight. But like, you still end up in this spot too, where like, I think they really need Roschon back, because clearly they didn't want Monangai running that much out there, and they need someone to be a more consistent force between the tackles.
The ones to blame, I feel like, is us. Maybe just
I like it. You're right.
Thinking something else could have happened today, but and I say that half-hearted, jokingly, but you talked about the tease that was last year that kind of worked out in our favor, and silly me, down 10 with 2 minutes left. I thought, hey, who knows? What if? And it all, the air went out as soon as Caleb missed the wide open DJ Moore, where that's the most open he's going to be all season long. And he just completely overthrown by 7-8 yards. And that's when I was just like, okay, conversations need to be had. Obviously, it's just week one. You're right. But at the same time, this wasn't a scheme thing. This was simply missing your best wide receiver who was wide open. And that is just a huge concern. It's something that, me, like, I feel like I'm always super optimistic about Caleb on this particular show. All last season was me saying, get this team to the point where Caleb can take them to a Super Bowl. Like, just make sure the team gets a little bit better, and that see if Caleb is the guy who can ultimately get you to the Super Bowl. This first game of the season is arguably, I'm sure I'm just not thinking of anything because I'm kind of living in the moment right now, but I feel like this might be the worst game I watched him play. At least it's the worst one that's coming to mind right now.
Now, I won't go that far, because I do think there were some positives in Caleb's game too. Like,
his running.
I thought his pocket management seemed far improved this game than what we saw in previous years. I thought he was making a clear effort to play on time. He was still late on stuff, but like, he was definitely improved on it. And frankly, I thought his accuracy was a lot better outside of a few throws in the first 3 quarters. It was the fourth quarter accuracy that kind of started to waver a little. And even some of that, to me, I get, this kind of runs counter to what I just said, but the first quarter misses bug me more than the fourth quarter misses, because the fourth quarter misses, he was dealing with more pressure in his face, and they were misses that we saw him make last year some more of, like the downfield throws with pressure in his face. We know he tends to sail those, and that's like the DJ Moore one. You said there was a little pressure in his face and he was falling back. Like, he needs to improve it, but like, I don't expect an avalanche of improvement all at once. It was to me, like, missing DJ Moore on the slant on the fourth down try. Missing, who was it? He missed early in the first quarter. He missed someone who was there wide open on he missed Colson Loveland. And it's like, those were throws that needed to be made. He had a clean pocket, and they were there for the taking. Or if not a clean pocket, he evaded and had a clean setup. He wasn't off his back foot trying to make it happen despite something not going in his favor. It was, he found the room to make a good throw and didn't make the throw he needed to make. So that that irks me a little more.
See, I guess, like, I would respond then, doesn't this kind of feel like the same sort of dialogue and conversations we were having with Justin Fields? It was kind of this, like, I feel like I don't want to be at the point where we're starting to make excuses already. If you're the number one pick, if you're, supposed to be the most talented quarterback that we've ever had, you've got to make those throws.
Yeah.
Again, as you said early on, like, it's one thing if you're a rookie. Caleb isn't a rookie now. Like, he, at some point, He needs to show that he can be a guy to carry an offense by himself. It's got to be one of those where you look at your quarterback that way, right? Like when the team is struggling, when things just aren't going your way, when referees seemingly go the other side every single time. I feel like you always want at least a quarterback who you can kind of look to for 1 second, be like, you know what? All right, I got it. And in our case, at least today, I did not feel that at all. You're right. He did have some really good runs. And, quite honestly, I think he progressed through his reads a lot more than he did last season.
Mhm.
I do appreciate that. But for me, it's any chance he had for like an I'm him moment, he completely faltered. And I think that's what that's why I'm sitting here disappointed.
Yeah. Except that first quarter throw to Rome. That was sick.
Beautiful throw, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's the, like, if you want to sit here and say Josh Allen misses throws all the time. Josh Allen does miss throws all the time. I don't expect Caleb to be perfect. I expect for him to make up for his mistakes, though. And that's where, like, that's the difference. Josh Allen missed plenty of throws last night on Sunday Night Football, but then he made some incredible plays to make up for it. Like, versus you compare that to a guy like Jared Goff, who doesn't have the physical tools of a Josh Allen or a Caleb Williams. He just doesn't miss the throws that he's supposed to hit. Like, that's, you can't really miss the throws you're supposed to hit and not make up for it. That's where you end up in no man's land as a quarterback. And, it's something that he needs to grow this year. And I'm by no means am I out on Caleb. By no means do I not think he can progress from this game. But I mean, given the light of the recent articles that came out, I do think it is fair to say we need growth. Given the light of what us Bears fans have seen at the quarterback position over and over and over, and the excuses we've made for passers in the past, I think it's perfectly fair to say we need to see clear and concise growth at this position from a second-year passer. I don't think the answer is benching him. I don't think the answer is moving on, but at least not this early. I don't think we're even having that discussion yet, to be clear. But I do think it's fair for us to ask. We need to see that progression next week and small steps each week.
Yeah, and I think too, in full agreement with both of you. I think what makes it worse though is watching McCarthy show up in a big moment late in the game and help his team win. To your point, right? Like every opportunity that Caleb had to be the guy, I'm him, he didn't show up in this game. Whereas on the flip side, JJ McCarthy did. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't necessarily pretty, right? I mean, he still was getting abused. He was getting hit. He was, taking, still making some bad throws, maybe getting some help from some penalties that weren't fully penalties. But when the game mattered most, he helped, the rushing attack got them in the right position. And when he needed to make a play, he made the play.
And one thing I want to mention when we get to our segment here, that dude fast. Caleb wasn't fast last year. Caleb is fast this year. That dude got faster. Like he was giving me, like he's not this fast, but he was giving me shade to Kyler Murray as a runner, which is exciting. I mean, we can have a little excitement on a sorrowful podcast like this, right?
100%. No, I think, Q, just going back really quick, I think the number one thing that you mentioned earlier that I noticed in this game was, the speed was certainly there, but I was more impressed with the footwork of navigating the pocket. I think that was something that we did not see from Caleb a year ago, not even close to even a thought that he could manage a pocket properly as an NFL quarterback. You saw it in his feet. You saw it in his decision-making. And when things weren't there, that's when he tried to put on the superhero cape and become the greased up deaf guy and take off and run. And overall, I think he did great in that essence. It's just being able to hit some of those throws. I think we sit here and if you say, hey, Caleb, let's say there's, 8 bad throws in this game, and instead of missing all 8, maybe he makes 3 or 4 of them. Maybe this is a little bit of a different narrative when it's all said and done.
Yeah, agreed. But with that said, let's get to our first segment here. in the nicest man, because it is a loss. We're going to start with the nice guys.
The nicest man.
All right, starting with you, Ron. Who is your nicest man for the?
I'll give some love to a guy that I really wasn't expecting a whole lot.
Or wait, Ron. Nicest man is not love. I don't want to say it's hate, but it's the guy who's
you're right. I got so excited because I want to talk about this guy that I'm already jumping the gun here, Q. Man, the nicest man. I really, I don't even know, because I think there's a couple guys that could be this answer. Honestly, it might be Caleb, in the sense of, like you said, he's got to make the throws that are there, the give me throws, especially when you've got opportunities to keep moving drives forward. I'll also give an honorable nicest man mention to the officiating crew for some of their absolute horseshit penalties. The Darnell Wright one was horseshit. The pass interference was horseshit. And the hands to the face by Dio was also horseshit. Those three were not penalties, flat out, and they were just bad calls. So the guys in stripes certainly get a mention here, but it's hard not to look at number 18 in this game when you're thinking about that.
Sunny, where are you going with your nicest man pick?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely going to make a mention of those referees as well. Again, I think anyone who's been watching us for 25 minutes now, none of us are saying the referees are the reason that the Bears lost today, but certainly they had some influence on some meaningful points in that game. I think Caleb is the natural answer here, but quite honestly, I'm just going to say Ben Johnson. And I understand that he's got a very complicated system that can't all be incorporated right away in game one. But I expected more than that. Again, if you had not told me that we had a new coaching staff and I just watched that football game, I don't know if I would have thought things were that drastically different. And I guess maybe I just came in with the mindset that I wanted to be wowed a little bit more. I feel like the only times I was truly wowed were that first drive and when Caleb connected on that last touchdown with, 2 minutes left. That was a great play call right there. And that was like, oh, that's a Ben Johnson experience right there. I felt like there were just too few moments that I felt that way. And so, hopefully this is the only time I'm going to say this. And of course, this has no impact on my long-term feelings on Ben Johnson, but at least today, against a team that I don't think is very good, who you had at home, I think Ben Johnson could have done better.
Sonny, I'm glad you said that, because I'm sitting here going, like, benefit of the doubt, like there's so many excuses out there for it. Brian Flores' defense, very well schemed, but like at the same time, there was a massive schematic advantage to being a completely unscouted offense that you would think should have resulted in better results than what the Bears got today. They have plenty of talent. They had that schematic advantage, and it is a love fest for Ben Johnson. We all want him to be great. We all think he's great, but like, you're right. We did expect a little more from him tonight, and it's easy to put that aside and say that, make excuses for it. But I think you make a really strong point there of it was a letdown. Doesn't mean his tenure is going to be a letdown, right, but tonight was a letdown for Ben Johnson. Now, for my nicest man, I mean, I usually try to make a list of 3 so we can make sure we have 3 different guys. Caleb Williams was my first one. So, Ron, I'm with you on that. I didn't put Ben Johnson on there, but like retroactively, I think that's a good pick. But my third one was Jonah Jackson. He got paid a lot of money this offseason on a contract extension that didn't really make a ton of sense to pay from the Bears standpoint. After they traded for him, they went and gave him an extension where they could have said, we got to see it prove it first, and they didn't. Multiple false starts. I think there might have been another penalty in there for him. A few issues in pass pro. And I didn't think he was generating the push that was expected in the run game. So, like, Jonah Jackson, to me, I needed to see a little more from you. And we'll go back to the tape. We'll verify this tomorrow. If that's the case, like, obviously, O-line is always a little tough to read until you go dive into it. But, like, my initial watch was I wanted to see some better play from Jonah Jackson than we got. Now, we'll move on to our next segment here.
The baddest man.
And Sunny, I'll give you first shot on this one since Ron got the last one. Who is your baddest man for the Chicago Bears today? And for the listeners, nicest man is the guy who struggled, the guy who did some favors for the other team. Baddest man is the guy who did no favors. No one on the Vikings wants anything to do with this guy after today.
I thought Doya had a good game. He kind of jumped out at you, especially in that first half. That was really promising to see. Javon Dexter had some plays that, shows that, maybe he can reach that promise that, well, I mean, I think he's pretty much there. I think he's at this point, he's just a very good football player, which is what we kind of hoped for him. I'm genuinely trying to think of someone on the offensive end. Special teams wasn't all that good. Our punt coverage was just awful today. I can think of a couple guys. I think I just named them, and I'm really curious on if you guys have guys that I didn't name as your selections.
Ron, where are you going?
I really enjoyed what Noah Sewell did today. I thought he was a very spectacular surprise. Obviously, we as Bear fans, we as Bears on Tap co-hosts are used to screaming the names of Edwards and Edmonds in the middle on a pretty routine basis over the last few years. And obviously no Edwards here tonight. Noah Sewell, a guy that I think we all liked and wanted to kind of see something from. Dennis Allen gets there. He puts on the cowboy collar, and there's magical powers in those cowboy collars. And, man, he balled out. He was all over the field tonight. Was he perfect? No, but he did a lot of really good shit. And that makes me excited because maybe for the first time in quite a few years, it feels like the Bears actually have some semblance of depth at the linebacker position. And if an Edwards or if an Edmonds is injured and banged up, Noah Sewell did a great job stepping in and being able to run the Dennis Allen defense the way that Dennis Allen wants his linebackers to play it. And it was very encouraging to see number 44 flying all over the field. Not only on defense, too, also on special teams as well.
Yeah, so Sewell was he was on my early list, but then in the fourth quarter, I did think that Kevin O'Connell started targeting him with rub routes and man coverage and being like, oh, we can take advantage of this dude. And I think that I took him off my baddest list after that. But he was there for me because it was like, he is a backup filling in, right? He is flying around. He is doing good stuff. And then Nahshon Wright was also on my short list because the dude made a hell of a play on that interception. He did struggle earlier, but so that's why I'm not giving it to him, but he made up for it some. And ultimately, I'm going to try to avoid backups for my nicest man too. So I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus there with that. They're filling in. And I think both those guys did a nice job filling in tonight as best they could. Deo Odeyingbo was my first guy, Sonny. So kudos on that pick. I like it. Last guy who I had written down here was Jaquan Brisker. He didn't pop a lot, but there weren't a ton of highlight plays from Brisker, but I felt like he did a lot of good stuff to keep the secondary intact, keep integrity. And it seemed like he was flying around to a lot of different portions of the field and handling a lot of different responsibilities. So I think the all 22 is going to be very kind to Brisker this week. And I think it's encouraging to see that from him because I do think a guy who's in a contract year and a guy who's probably a really fun fit in this Dennis Allen defense, I'm excited to see what he has the rest of the year. But if you guys don't have any other thoughts, we will get to our keys to victory here, and then we will close this thing out.
Keys to victory.
Well, our first key to victory was to establish the run early. Gentlemen, how do you think that went?
Well, there's a reason we weren't the victors today, and that had a lot to do with it. I do want to give Swift credit in that third quarter. He really stepped it up, and got some extra yardage after first contact. But yeah, overall wise, no one's going to give a positive grade to our running offense today.
I agree. I think in a vacuum, I think there was a lot of things that DeAndre Swift did well. I don't necessarily think it was entirely all his fault of obviously establishing the run. Play calling got away from it for a little while too. I think that's important here. We know that the screen game is an extension of the run game, but there was just a lot of different looks, right? DJ Moore lining up in the backfield at times, took a handoff, was a part of some play action. I think the lack of healthy bodies in that running back room showed today. I really believe that. That was probably a big reason why the Bears struggled to establish the run.
Yeah, and some of our narrative around this key was that it's not just about racking up yards, but controlling the tempo and the flow of the game, because when you can dictate that tempo, it can help put Williams in favorable throwing situations. And that's something that they pretty much failed at today. Like, they were constantly behind the sticks and struggling to get in those passing spots that you want to be in. Especially after like the first quarter, it was kind of like they kept ending up in second and long, third and long spots because they couldn't move the ball on the ground. Now, key number 2 was to weaponize misdirection and really use it to their advantage. Do you guys think that you saw a lot more play action and motions to kind of open stuff up for the offense, or do you think it was more stale than you expected it to be?
I mean, I can't really think off the top of my head any moments where, I'm blanking. You guys?
I think it was a little stale. I'll be completely honest. I really do. Early in the game, there was a lot of intention of, play action, set up the pass, things like that. But once the Bears couldn't dictate that tempo in the run game, the Vikings weren't buying it, and it lost its flair. Motions are important, right? They're easy ways to help quarterbacks identify coverage. It might not be perfect, right? It's not an exact science, but it's a it's a couple of the answers on the test type study key of sorts for a quarterback. But it really felt like they kind of got away from some of that too later in the game, and they just tried to either just float the ball downfield and make things happen. And again, when you got your back against the wall and the Vikings rattle off as many points as they did in such a short amount of time, it does kind of force you to be able to get away from that. Everybody looks at the Ben Johnson offense over the last 3 years in Detroit and says, wow, this offense was great and it did a lot of good things. It did. But a lot of that was centered around control of the pace of the game, right? Running the football, being able to set up play action pass. When you're ahead or when you're in an advantage situation where they have to respect your run game, you can get cute and creative and throw in the hook and ladder and throw a pass to Penei Sewell and things like that. The Bears weren't able to do that today because that run game wasn't able to set up, because a lot of it fell on Caleb Williams. And we know that, again, Ben Johnson's system wasn't going to be 1-for-1 coming to Chicago, but I think it did feel a little more stale, I think, than what I was expecting from a misdirection standpoint. It was very kind of vanilla. And I just wonder how much of that vanilla comes from this offensive unit not fully understanding what Ben Johnson's asking them to do yet.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I mean, I'm with you. I did like that they got more under center play action in there. They did definitely make a point to get some more of that in there, which was good to see. But I feel like there was that, like you said, they got away from it, and I'm trying to think of how to verbalize this. Like, one of the big strengths of the Ben Johnson offense is how diverse the run game is, right? And that's married to the misdirection and the play action. So if you're not feeling like you can get diverse in your run game, that has to limit your playbook for play action. Because if you've been running, outside zone all game and suddenly you're doing a duo play action, or duo is probably not for under center, but like a power play action play, no one's really buying it, right? If you haven't run power all game. So I think that there's some interesting thought concepts there of I wonder how much the diversity of their O line is impacted. Not diversity of the O line, the O line's ability to block up diverse looks. I wonder how much Braxton Jones impacts a lot of this, because when Brandon Thorne talks about it all the time, when you're booting out that backside left tackle, or if you're booting right, the backside left tackle has to be able to get range, right? Like that is a tough block for them to be able to block that up and make sure the quarterback has enough time behind him. We didn't see any bootlegs. I think there's a reason for that. And I think part of that is, as we saw in the preseason, Braxton Jones' range is pretty limited as long as this injury is going on with his ankle. And that also impacts his ability as a puller, his ability to move in space. It's going to impact your run game, your ability to get out wide or get him out in motion. I think that they were dealing with a pretty limited deck there from what they felt like they could do in the run game and conversely the play action game. Did that all make sense, Ron?
It sure did.
Okay.
Well said.
Sure. Want to double check with my in-house O-line coach here. But all right, last key to the game, to force clear passing situations for the Vikings and hit JJ McCarthy. Now, they're hit JJ McCarthy 5 times, 3 sacks, like they 5 times on 20 pass attempts, 23 dropbacks. Like that's a decent rate. But I tell you what, JJ showed some cojones.
So that's kind of what I was going to say. Like all the passes we wished Caleb, the opportunities were there for him, but he just didn't make. At the end of the game, JJ McCarthy made those throws. And I don't think the Bears did a bad job on JJ all game long. I just simply think that JJ stepped up when the team needed him to step up, and when they needed a tough throw to happen, JJ made them. You had that Justin Jefferson touchdown, which was a great throw. And then there was even one that went right through Justin's hands, which was perfectly placed. And Justin somehow just wasn't able to come down with it. So, of the 3, this is the one I think we did the best in. I don't think I have too much to complain about.
Yeah, this was my top key to the game. And I think they accomplished it pretty well. But when you fail at the other 2, the way that they did, like it makes it really tough. You're 1 for 3, right? You only hit 33% of your keys to the game, or our keys to the game. I'd be honored if their keys to the game were the same as mine, or as ours. But I mean, I think they accomplished this one. They made JJ about as uncomfortable as he could possibly be. And one thing I'm wondering, did you guys feel like the stadium was as hostile in the second half towards the Vikings offense as they were the first half? Because that place was loud as I've heard it in a long time in the first half.
It was really loud. And I think the lack of the Bears offense getting going started to really dial them down a little bit. And, momentum's a real thing. I know it's not something that we can tangibly see or quantify, or it's a thing, man. And as soon as that Vikings offense got even the slightest bit of momentum, it fully, the crowd, I think, was already drained from the lack of the Bears offense. Bears offense's ability to move. Words are hard on Monday nights when we get this late. But the Vikings did the exact opposite. And as soon as that volume started to decrease at Soldier Field, I think the Vikings took advantage and just ran with it, because I agree, Q. There were points on the broadcast you could hear it and you went, wow, that place is deafening right now. And then the second half, it felt the complete opposite.
But I mean, like, that's, I think the crowd was there. It was just waiting for the opportunity to get loud, right? In that first half, it's a new season. There's a lot of new energy. They were screaming. That first drive, again, was just how storybooks are written. And then I feel like the loudest that stadium got was during that pick 6. I mean, that's when it was just jumping off the TV, and that was in the third quarter. So I think, if the Bears had given them an opportunity to stay loud, they would have. But just the offense stalling constantly, just the penalties happening over and over again that were just completely unnecessary. I think a lot of the people there, who of course are Bears fans, they kind of had the same feelings that us three are discussing right now. Like, wait a minute, is this happening again? No, this isn't supposed to happen anymore. Oh, there's another penalty. Oh gosh, here, now they've taken the lead. Oh, how do you miss the field goal? I just think that I keep using the same terminology. The Bears experience. I think that some of us have lived it a little too often for our liking, and we know when we're experiencing it. And I just think that if we gave them a moment, if we gave them a first down, a nice Caleb throw, that place would have started rocking again. But that moment just never happened because it was never given a reason to.
So my first thought there is, we're Bears fans. We're not used to the offense being any good. You got to be loud for your defense. We know this. So us, Bears on tap, we're putting this loss on you, Bears fans. No, I'm kidding. We're not doing that. Not
Let
on
them
the
know,
Bears
Q.
fans. I was just kidding.
Yeah.
But I think that wraps it up for us, guys. I mean, rough Monday night football game, rough week 1. I mean, we're gearing up for Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions in Detroit next week. They started 0-1 as well in a really, really rough first game.
What do you guys think the opening spread to that game is going to be?
5.5.
I'm assuming none of us have seen it.
I think I saw it.
I haven't seen
I
it.
don't know if I saw it or not, but I think I saw 5.5 somewhere floated out there. So 5.5.
I think it's going to move heavily after this game. I think it's going to push closer to 7.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say about a
don't know.
touchdown.
Did you guys watch that Lions game?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That offense was. I don't know about that new OC over there, man. And maybe I'll be eating my words in a week and be like, okay, but that dude didn't they looked so Green Bay is good. I don't think Green Bay's defense is near that good. And Micah Parsons wasn't playing half the snaps, and they were getting nothing when Parsons wasn't in there.
But that's also the awful part about tonight is I've seen all 4 NFC North teams play, and it looks like not only are we going to stink again for another year, but Green Bay is going to win another division title. And
don't you say that? Don't say that.
You know what? It's been a long night, Q. You got to forgive me for I know not what I'm doing.
But you might be right. But anyways, boys, let's do away with those demons and get out of here the only way we know how.
Bear down, gentlemen.
All right, bear down.